this with howdy, like, like Manny. So there you go. All right, I am a old-fashioned Ozarks gal. Like he said, my family came, 4 branches of my family tree fell off or broke or whatever in Howell and Ozark County in the 1820s. And they have stayed ever since. I can follow my ancestors all the way back. And I'm the 7th generation in 4 different branches. So I'm an Ozarks girl, no doubt. I love it. Wouldn't live anywhere else. Like to travel, but wouldn't go anywhere else for the world. Disclaimer, this is a public service announcement. Accents and dialects, such as the Ozarks. Now, not everyone talks this way. In fact, maybe some have worked all their life not to. You will say some familiar things, you will hear. Don't worry, I'm not accusing you of anything, or your kin. Do claim the way you talk, is what I say. And I say that to keep Ozarks language alive. Ozarks is a mutt, M-U-T-T language, meaning it came from all over the place. And I try to be a living bridge from the past to the present. I started in 2021, so I haven't been a traditional storyteller very long. I was trained by the state of Missouri and in a program called the Traditional Arts Apprenticeship Program. And I got a grant to work with Meredith Cisco, to work with her for a year because she's a master storyteller. We worked for a year and then I was on my own. And we had to apply for that, which was a little nerve-wracking because they only accepted 7 people. The other people in my class, one played a fiddle. She was a classical violinist and she wanted to learn to play a fiddle. So they matched her with a fiddle master. One was a boy who wanted to learn woodworking in the old way. Rug making, dance, and they had been, they said, looking for a storyteller from the Ozarks for quite a while. And that happened to turn out to be me, so I was really grateful. Like I said, I'm the 7th generation. My daughter, who lives 2 miles up the road, is the 8th. My twin granddaughters are the 9th generation of Ozarkers in Howell and Ozark County. And I hope that they stay. I really do. I hope that they'll stay in God's country here, but one of them wants to live in Paris. But she's only 10, so let she know. I am from West Plains, Missouri. 75% of Missourians say Missouri. The other 25 don't know what they're talking about, and they say Missouri. That comes from a little confusion in the fact that the Indians of the time, the French called them the Missouria. So there you go, Missouri. And so I like the E sound better. I do history presentations on Scots-Irish settlers, the Civil War, West Plains Dance Hall explosion. Anytime you need a program, just look me up. I'm related to half of Ozark County, at least, or more, and probably a quarter of Howell County. Every time I turn around, I meet a new neighbor. Somebody was building a house down the street from us, and I went down and talked to him, and he said his name was Martin, last name Martin. I said, "You're kidding me." He said, "No." I said, my grandfather, Martin, was killed in the Civil War. He said, "Well, you know, mine was too." And same one. So, you know, got a Martin on this corner. So I cannot swing a dead cat without hitting a relative, honestly. So I have cousins everywhere. I taught junior high for 31 years and loved it. Most people thought that I was crazy because they said, "Oh, how can you teach that age?" And I said, "Well, you just have to be firm. You know, you got to get that teacher look down, and then if they keep doing what they're doing, just embarrass them, because junior high kids do not like to be embarrassed at all." And I warned them. I said, "I will embarrass you if you act up, so just get ready." You all probably know as much or more about Ozarks language than I do. So if you think of anything that you want to talk about after, please make a note of it. Old language, I call it Ozark speak. Now, if you had some people in a room, one from New York, one from Mississippi, one from California, and one from the Ozarks, could you probably tell if they had lived there for quite a while, that was their native state, could you tell by hearing them talk which was which? I think you probably could. I'm just sure I could. The Ozarks would probably be the least noticeable. The New York accent. Is anybody from New York in here? All right, I'll say it. I think the New York accent is the most annoying accent in the United States, followed closely by New Jersey. Boston is a good one too. Yeah, those accents are just awful. But you probably could, because an accent is how you pronounce things. It's strictly what you hear. That's what I heard before, and I said, have you lived here, for a long time? Because I could hear every Ozarkian thing in his voice. And I could hear older things in his voice. That meant he was around people that were older than him at one time that spoke it. Now, in Britain, you ever watch BBC or Masterpiece Theater and have to use the closed captioning? That's how I am. I always have to use it. I cannot understand anything they say. And we went actually to Britain one time, and it might as well have been Russian or German because we didn't understand anything. The first settlers of the U.S. came mostly from English stock, English, Irish, Ulster, and there's a thing called pattern of first settlement theory, which means a place forms as the people come, and usually they come to places that they are alike, like the Germans, they all came up by Herman and along the Missouri River. Scots-Irish came to the Ozarks and down here in Arkansas too. And why is that? Well, it was cheap, and our relatives were mostly poor. I don't know if any of you had any mega million ancestors, but I sure didn't. Poor as Job's turkey, as they say. But it's the how and the why, the food that you eat, the farming, how you do that, the religions, how you view money and education. American English actually started in the late 1600s with the first wave of Pilgrims, Puritans. Other groups would come later and they would speak German, Italian, but they all learned English. That was the thing that they felt like was necessary to assimilate into society. You needed to learn how to speak English. Now, on the map, there used to be 7 English dialects, and if you look at your map, when I first started teaching, and I had a unit like this for my 8th graders about language, where it came from, and how it got here to the Ozarks. And it used to be, you could not find a map with the Ozarks on it as an individual language unit. I found one map that had a little circle drawn about like this, down by the Ozarks, and it was number 18, and I looked at it and it said, the language of the Beverly Hillbillies. Oh. Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, that is horrible. We are doggies, we don't talk like that, quite. But this is the most recent that I approve of, language, dialect. And you can see we're surrounded by a bunch of Southerners and Northerners. We aren't really Midwesterners. And down at the bottom, that is the whole Ozarks, and that's a map that I like because it breaks it down into specific regions. And I think that the dialect is different from region to region in the Ozarks. And where would you all go? In the White River Hills? Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm up there in the Central Plateau of West Plains. So right by West Plains, there is a word called Courtois. And does anybody know how to say that? It's a region and it's also a river.
Courtois.
You would think It's courtois, but it's Codaway. Don't ask me why, that's just the name of it, Codaway. It's kind of like we were talking about Yellville. He said, how do you say it? And I said, Yellville. He said, no, it's Yellville. It's the accent, now the dialect. And you can see all the different areas. Springfield is in a kind of a different area than we are, West Plains. There's over 30 plus dialects in the United States. On that map, St. Louis has its own dialect, and Kansas City does too. And I believe that, because St. Louisians are a little different. Everyone has one. Some are more noticeable than others. Some are favored, some are disfavored. But a dialect is not an unsuccessful attempt to speak standard English. It is just the way you do speak. Our accents are changing because of television, education. There's always a teacher somewhere harping saying, I ain't got no pencil is not correct. Say that the way you're supposed to. So teachers have tried to change the languages. Mobility, people moving from one area to another. And technology, we're all becoming a little more alike. But then I read a study the other day that we're all becoming different. So I don't know, take it with a grain of salt. But in the 1700 to 1770, 200,000 people immigrated, Scots-Irish, from Ulster, which is Northern Ireland. And that was not a place you wanted to be. That was the place the king put you. If he did not like you in England, he would say, go live in Ulster. And that is where the majority of my family came from. It was poor, you could never own land, you lived in squalor. And after 2 generations, my people were like, this is not conducive to what we want in our future family. And so they came over to the United States through the port of Philadelphia in the 1700s and migrated like a whole bunch of Scots-Irish did down through North Carolina, got there in time for the Revolutionary War, fought a little bit in that, went over to Tennessee or Kentucky, stayed there a while, it got too crowded. Where do you go next? Missouri. It opened up as a state in 1821, but people were coming there before that. And why did people come to this particular area, especially up where I am at, in West Plains? Because the land was dirt cheap. Nobody wanted it. You could not grow a turnip. It just was, it was not the land so much as the people brought big families and they wanted to be together. And so that's where they could find a lot of land together. And that's where my family's, what they did. There's a place called Hawkins Ridge in Ozark County that they made, a little church and a school. Now, specifics of the Ozark accent. One time I was doing a voice to text, and I said, I think that such and such, and I looked and it said T-H-A-N-K, thank. And I thought, oh, wow, I really do speak Ozarks. I thank it. So that's what it wrote down. The Ozarks voice is considered to be a musical voice. It goes up and down and all around, and it's not just flat. Some of the characteristics of the Ozarks, and this applies to you if you've lived here any amount of time, you have a drawl. It's not as deep as in the South, but we do have a drawl. And that is saying one word like it's 2 syllables, like fire. Well, I wouldn't say, oh, the house is on fire. I would say, the house is on fire. So you extend it. The house is on fire. Even in my normal voice, I make it longer where it sounds like it's 2 syllables. 9, 9, 9. You hear the up and down. Right, right. Time. What time is it? Time. If I say, bring me that pen over there, do you know what I'm talking about? Is it the writing implement or the sharp sticky thing? We don't know because we have no different words for that. We know how to spell them, but we don't say them differently at all. I don't. A pen is a pen is a pen. How about 10? The number or the material that you put on your, whatever, your house. 10, 10. Same thing.
10.
Well, that's the non-Ozarks. That's northern, that is very true.
She's an island, so am I.
Oh,
I was born in Iowa. We're up here, but
I would say 10 and 10.
yeah.
he's born in Iowa.
Well, there's all kinds of tests you can take. There's the Mary, Mary, Mary test. Merry Christmas, marry a girl, and get married. And they're all alike to me. But other places, they're not. But try teaching a first grader the concept of a short E. Pen. Pin. P-I-N. No. Pen. P-I-N. No! And they just almost don't get it because they say hen. We had a hen lay an egg. Egg. There's another one. Egg. Starts with an A. Send. End. Get. Get. Why should there be an E in get? Doesn't sound like it. Again. There's your I again. Another thing that we do is there's something called a rhotic R, and that's R-H-O-T-I-C, rhotic R. That means you either say R's and pronounce them very hard, or you don't say them much at all. Now this goes for Boston, and it also goes all the way down in the South, especially down the coast, where there were plantations and things. Back in the day, the plantation owners tried to model their speaking after the English because it was posh. And so they almost dropped the R. They live in Georgia, and they go to Charleston, and you look at it's at night you see a star, summertime, morning. You don't hear the R anywhere, it's gone. Neighbor, let's go see the neighbor. But we here in the Ozarks, we hit that R as hard as we can wherever it is in a word, doesn't matter where. Car, not car. Bar, not ba. Mother. And we even put R's where they don't belong, like wash and Washington. Now, I'm not saying everybody does it. That's a marker of Ozarks language, to stick that R in there.
For some reason.
And we don't say a hollow, we say a holler. We put it there too. We don't pick squash, we pick squash. Squash. I've got an idea that some of you may have heard some of these across the countryside. So that's a major thing. Listen for the R. You know that that's an Ozarker speaking because they're going to hit it and hit it hard. We also tend to leave the G off of ing words, like fixin'. I'm a fixin' to do that. Now when somebody says I'm a fixin' to do it, that is no time frame whatsoever. It could be 30 seconds, it could be 10 years, especially if you ask your husband to do something for you. Well, I'm fixing to do that. Okay, whatever. You know, you just don't know. Running, singing. I don't put the G on the end of words myself. We went dancing, walking, and the old timers put an A on front of everything. A fixin'. I'm a fixin' to go. I'm a goin'. I'm a comin'. Leave me alone, I'm a working. Let's go a visiting. And let's at night be a praying. So, like I said, we're a mutt language. We got a lot from England, Ireland, we have some Shakespeare words that were used very heavily until not very long ago, and I'm sure that you've probably heard them. Probably don't say them, but Shakespeare referred to, in his plays, wrestled. What is that? Wrestled. And that is a true Shakespeare word that carried over from Shakespearean England to here. And they said it for a long time, people did. Et. That's any kind of thing you do. You et later, tomorrow et, yesterday et, have you et. And one I really like is jeet.
Yeah, I love that one.
Jeet.
Jeet.
Did you eat? Jeet yet?
Yeah.
Deef. What? I'm a little deef. Chimbley. My mom said that her dad used to say things like that, and it embarrassed her to death. She's 87 now, but she still remembers. He would do it on purpose, just to embarrass her. He'd say clumb, a tree, and yonder. These are still Shakespeare words. Whilst. Why don't you sit there whilst I go do something else? Reckon. That is a Shakespeare word. Hulp, like help, H-O-L-P. Fetched. It for hit, and I've heard that. I had a father-in-law that spoke original Ozarkian, and he knew every one of them, and he would always say, hit. Oh yes, hit do. Hit's gonna rain. And astonished, not astonished, but just astonished. And they also would put an ED on everything. This is like a little kid does when they don't know past tense verbs. Instead of throw, and I threw it, I throwed it. Grow, you've grown a lot. You've growed a lot. Well, I knowed it all along. He drowned. Fell in the lake and drowned. Double modal. Now here's a good one. This is called stacking of unnecessary words, where you put two modals, auxiliary verbs. Doesn't mean anything, I know, but you'll understand. I might could go. Might could go. Not I might go or I could go, but I might could go, using two. He used to could do that. I used to could also. And the really fancy one is, I might, should, could have done it. Might, could, should have done it. I ought to go. Now, here is the first question. Laripin. If someone came to your house and ate lunch with you, and they said, this meal's laripin, would you be mad and insulted? Would you be happy and say thank you? What would you do? Who
You
can
have
tell
to
me?
add the qualifier laripin, good.
Yeah, but just laripin in itself is a descriptor. What does it mean? Does it mean good or bad?
Good.
Good. This meal is laripin. I'm gonna lick my plate. It's so laripin. And so that was a word that was around a lot. Okay, I'm gonna have some ladies pass out some worksheets and pencils. And
You can't do it.
we're gonna take a test in a minute to see how many words you know.
Yeah. Oh, he's not late. Okay.
While they're doing that, I want to go over some phrases. Now, do you think you've heard every phrase there is about a dog? Let's see. Dog days. You know what those are? What? Hot. Gotta get out of the porch. It's a 3-dog night. Really cold. You gotta have 3 dogs covering you up to keep warm.
Carry a tune and a poke.
Dog tired. Let sleeping dogs lie. Leave it alone. You're barking up the wrong tree, buddy. Dog, meaning, you know, you're off on that. I'm sick as a dog. Also a pig, a hog, or a mule. You ever work like a dog? You ever say, I worked like a dog today? I'm awful tired. The top dog is the big man. How many of you have ever, I know you wouldn't be, but have ever been out on a vendor one night and taken the hair of the dog that bit you the next day? That is, drink a little bit more alcohol just to add to what you had last night. You'll feel better. Her bark is worse than her bite. And sometimes the bite's worse than the bark. If you're gonna put on the dog, we're gonna fancy things up. Our neighbors is coming and we're gonna put on the dog. You don't wanna be in the doghouse at home. A dog in a manger, that's something that it's mine and you can't have it. I don't need it, but you still can't have it. That's the old fable, dog in the manger. You're like a dog in the manger. You won't share nothing. You're tight as the bark on a tree. Throw a bone. I don't want to do anything. I'm just going to throw him a bone. That just means I'm going to blow him off. Tail wagging the dog. I think that's what we have right now in our government. The tail is wagging the dog. Hounding someone. I'm going to hound you till you do what I say. And cricket as the dog's, what? Hind leg. Okay. All right, here we go on. Now I'm going to call off the definition and you find the word.
You're giving them numbers?
You can, or you can write a little note, or just look at it. It's up to you. I have people do everything. Okay, if you are constipated, what do you need? I heard it, somebody talk louder. Loosening weed. You need some loosening weed, and that's slippery elm. Get you some loosening weed, and that'll get you going again. The medical authority in any community who delivers babies and helps in lots of different ways is the granny woman. She's usually a little old woman that lives by herself. She knows all about yarbs, which is herbs or herbs, however you want to say it. Now this one I hardly ever have anybody get, but it means a rock.
Rock?
A rock. What? Donic. A donic is a rock, or a donix. Yeah, like onyx, donic. I'm gonna pick me up a donic and beating him in the head. If you were to get a whooping, what would you get? What is it on there?
Thrashing or high
Thrashing
tandon.
or a high tandon, and you might even have to get your own stick. And if you brought a stick that was short, or one that was about to break in half already, you probably had to go get another one. A man might say his wife is mighty disagreeable. Disagreeable.
Fractious.
Fractious. She's just a fractious, or he is. When I first was doing this, I learned the best saying about my husband. He's so stubborn, if you threw him in the creek, he'd go upstream. I did too. I said, that is you. That is so
Now you
you.
said creek, not
Creek.
crick?
No, I don't say crick. I don't do all of these, but you can probably hear a little Ozarkian in my voice. Someone that's not from here, Burner. You don't know what he's talking about. He's a burner. One time the preacher said, you know, Ozark people have to reside in the Ozarks a long time to be an Ozarker. And one preacher was giving a sermon one time for a man who died. He was 96, and he said he was a good man, even though he was not one of us, having moved here at the age of 5. Well, he was 96 years old, but he still wasn't an Ozarker. A highfalutin fancy man. A dude. Look at that dude. He thinks he's all duded up. Sometimes people's kids would go off to college and they'd come back and people would accuse them. You're acting just like a dude. You're getting above your raisin, boy. Can't sing.
Carry on.
Carry it to him.
Now, there are several variations of this. What is a poke?
A bag.
A sack, yes. A poke is a bag or a sack. And there's also don't carry a tune, can't carry a tune in a
Bushel
bucket.
basket. Or a
There's
bushel
also
basket.
a three-handled bucket. That's even worse. So if you're that bad, you really can't sing. If you ever said a bad word and you kind of slipped, you didn't really mean to say it. Pardon my French, and that is because the English people always thought that the French were just very racy and disgusting, and everything that was nasty was French, and so that's where that came from. Oh, pardon my French, you know, I don't say that, but they do in France, even though I did just say it. The very most, the hardest, you're full out, all get out. He works, or she ran all get out to get away from that dog. Now, this is one that has multiple meanings. It means do remember. Pay attention. Heed my warning. I got a desire to
Mind or mind?
mind. Do remember. Mind me now. Remember, pay attention. Mind what I said back at the house. Heed my warning. Now, I mind you, don't you go down to the creek because you'll fall in. And got a desire to. I got a mind for a lemonade right now. Get rid of somebody. What would you give them?
Cold shoulder.
Cold shoulder. Now, where that came from, and it actually came all the way from England, and it was a tradition back then, if somebody came to dinner that you didn't really want to come to dinner, you would give them the smallest piece of meat, like the worst piece of meat, and it would be cold. And you would serve them with that, and they would kind of get the hint, okay, this is cold, and it's probably the shoulder, it's not a very good cut, I'm probably not very welcome here. So that's what that means, if you give someone the cold shoulder. You want them to go away and not come back. All right, far, far away, you can't get there from here. Jillikins. How many people have heard of that, jillikins? That may be more of a northern Arkansas thing, or northern Ozarks thing. But jillikins means like the boonies. You cannot get there.
A jillion miles.
Jillion miles away. And you know, when I do this with a audience, like at West Plains, about half the people know. So it's a little more popular there, I suppose. If you add and subtract, cipher, like Jethro Bodine, 2 gazinda, that's how he multiplied, or divided his gazindas. 2 gazinda 8, 4 times. Okay, now, there's a certain way of fishing that they did. The Indians did it first, then the pioneers did it.
Bowing and spiking.
Bowing and spiking, and today we might call it gigging. But they would have a bow that was really tall, taller than your average bow, and they would have on the end of the arrow shaft, they would have a spike, either a 2-prong or a 3-prong, and they would shoot into the water, and they would learn how the refraction of the water would make you have to shoot from a certain angle. And I read that saved a lot of settlers to get fish. It helped them. They learned how to do that from the Indians. So it's like gigging, and that is still done. I know my husband went about 2 weeks ago, gigging suckers. Y'all ever gig?
Frogs.
What?
We always do frog gigging.
Frog gigging, okay. I always feel so sorry for those frogs running around with no legs. It's terrible. Now, if you were dead drunk, Cooter Brown, have you heard that? Cooter Brown, if you've heard it, you probably don't know where it came from. I swear he came to my house and he's drunker than Cooter Brown. Cooter Brown was a man during the Civil War that lived on the Mason-Dixon line, and he did not want to be drafted into either army. So he had a still, and he drank 24/7, all 4 years of the war. So whenever an army would come along, he'd be too drunk to get up in a saddle and take him off, and they just left him. And so that's the legend of Cooter Brown, drunk 24/7. Okay, chivalry. What does that mean? Okay, it's when, did any of you ever have chivalry? Okay, there's always a couple in the audience. It's when you get married, and my in-laws told us about it. People come to your house afterwards, and they bring pots and pans, and sometimes shotguns, anything that'll make noise. And they stand out there and they hoop and they holler. And it really gets worse than that sometimes, but you're supposed to have candy or money or something that you can give them to get them to go away. But I have read that they would take the bride and dunk her in the water to cool her off a little.
Put her in a wheelbarrow and take her down to the courthouse.
To get married?
No,
Or
after
just take her down
after
there,
there, yeah.
kidnap her? Okay.
One time I was in Jasper and I was sitting in Ozark Cafe and I saw a man wheeling a lady in a wedding gown around the courthouse there, and I'm like, what are they doing? Well, they just got married.
Oh my goodness, that is cool. I hadn't heard of that.
There was a Walton's episode that had the chivalry in it.
Yeah, I'm glad they don't do that anymore.
Some people probably still do.
They would ride the groom out on a rail, which meant put him on a rail, a straddle, and I cannot imagine that would help the honeymoon night a bit. They would take the slats out of the bed
Yes.
and
Stuff under the mattress.
put salt in the bed too. So just all kinds of little tricks. But you know, I found out that chivalry is a really old term going back to France in about 1600s, and it's when the community did not approve of two people getting married. Didn't like it. It was either like a much older man with a much younger woman, a divorced man, or a woman that had been married several times. They were just not quite, you know, they were shady in some way, and they would chivalry him, and it was mean. And eventually it got a little less mean, but they actually would do it to people that they did not approve of. Okay, a fit. Which is worse, a hissy fit or a conniption fit? A conniption. A little kid throws a hissy. Quit that hissy throwing. But a conniption, now that's getting serious. It's cutting a fit, fit to be tied, or having a dying fit. If a person throwing it is riled up or about to fly off the handle, and they have a hot head, an itchy trigger finger, or a cocked gun, it's best to hunker down, hightail it out of there, turn tail and run, or skedaddle. Drinking. Here's some drinking sayings. 3 sheets to the wind. Everybody's heard that. That's still popular. That actually comes from a sailboat. If it loses all of its sails, for some reason they fall down, it is off course like this. Drunk as a lord. Now I don't know why that would be, but drunk as a skunk. And somebody told me that a skunk, and I don't know because I don't get near skunks, but a skunk doesn't go in a straight line. It kind of goes like this. Is that true? Does anybody know?
Yeah, that's pretty true.
They go all around. So they look like they're drunk. Tighter than Dick's hat band. Have you heard that one?
I've heard it also means stingy.
It does. And it also means something that won't fit. Her pants are tighter than Dick's hat band.
I like that.
And her husband, it's so cheap, it's tighter than Dick's head. But, so that's a kind of multi-purpose saying. Drunker than a boiled owl. I don't know why. Gloggery. You log lottery. drunker than 2 judges, legless, lushy, tipsy, or of course, drunk as Cooter Brown. Now, one word that is purely Ozarks, came from nowhere else, is directly.
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 Right away.
Directly. I'm gonna do it directly. Now, here's a joke for you. The man was praying to the God. He said, Lord, I ain't done too bad for today. I have not spread no rumors nor gossip. I have not been greedy or selfish. I have not been jealous, and I have not taken your name in vain once. And I'm thankful for that, Lord, but I'm fixing to get out of this bed directly, and I may need some help. Okay, these are just gonna be a few that you probably heard. Do you ever hear somebody say, look at that one, not just that, but that one, that's the Ozarks thing. We pointed out that there, that one. Allus, we always do that, A-L-L-U-S, always. A haint can be the word what?
Ghost.
Ghost, or the
Not.
word ain't.
Yeah.
Haint, he ain't afraid of no paints. Now, you try not to curse, but if you did, you could say consarn it, or darn it, or confound it. Now, some ladies did not want to even say that, so they said nicer things. Land of Goshen. You ever heard that? That's from the Bible, land of Goshen. That's a strong word, and the strongest is, well, I'll swan.
Yes.
Probably heard that. That's a, I'll swear, but you don't want to do that because that's not a ladylike thing to do. What do you hull? What kind of vegetables? Peas. What is milk if it's blinky?
It's
Sour.
It's sour. Ah, that milk's blinky.
Or almost sour.
Throw it out. Okay, a poke can be a bag, but you can also eat poke salad. And it's not poke salad, it's poke
Salad.
salad.
S-A-L-I-T.
Salad.
Salad, poke salad. Somebody might tell you, well, you just get over there and you give them what fur? And let them have it. Thrash them. Fur is a good word. Good fur, nothing. I'm fixing for, we're bound for Missouri. Those apples are ripe for picking. And I'm hankering for. Here's a statement. Can't never could. Did you ever hear that? Can't never could. Get off your rear end and you might get it done. What's a treeless hill? Knob or bald. A knob or a bald. Order is ought to. I don't know if we order to do that or not. Don't that beat all? He ain't worth a plug nickel. Colder than a well digger's. Choose your part of the body. Feet, rear end, whatever. This is one of my favorites. We ain't got a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. How poor we are. Can't turn a silk purse from a sow's ear. Don't get above your raisin. And here's some more, just about finished. That'll learn you not to do that anymore. She's proud. Now, does that mean, would that be good or bad? She's proud. That's bad, that's vain. She's just a little too. So she's vain. I love this one. That is finer than frog hair split 4 ways. Now that's little. That's fine. Even a blind hog finds an acorn once in a while. Like every dog has its day. And some warnings. You don't want to be dancing with who? The devil. Don't dance with the devil. If you lay down with dogs you're gonna get up with
Fleas.
fleas. Every critter runs with its own, and that's, I can just hear old people telling their teenagers that about the company they're keeping. Don't stir up a hornet's nest. If you lay down in the road, don't holler when a wagon runs over you. And here's another dog one. If something is just not gonna work, that dog ain't going to run or hunt. This isn't gonna do it. And if it is a good idea, that dog will hunt. That dog will hunt, I do believe. I have one more joke to tell you before I go. There was a little man, bald as could be. He could number the hairs on his head. But every day he went down to the barber shop just to get away from his wife mostly. And he wanted to catch up on all the town gossip, which you always learn at the barber shop. And he would sit very quietly, never said a word. And the barber got kind of aggravated at him because he's taking up a chair and he wasn't a paying customer. And so one day he said, "Why don't you get up here? Let me give you a haircut." He only had 10 hairs on his head. So he got up there and he smoothed them all down with lather and shaved real nicely. And when he was through, he reached out, the barber reached out to the man and felt his head. He said, "Ooh, that's just as soft as my old lady's butt." And the little man who never said anything said, "I believe you're right." Does anybody have any words or anything that you want to share? Because sometimes I get words that I use again. Yes,
Okay, so I moved here from Mississippi about 51 years ago.
Okay.
And I heard some language that I had never heard before, coming out of Lowell, Missouri.
uh-huh.
The Ewans and the
Oh,
Yens.
I forgot that part. Ewans, and yeah, that is English, pure English. Ewans, themans, usins, that's her'n, or his'n.
What about
Yeah.
youngins and children?
Youngins, yeah.
Our daughter was born abroad, and we went back when she was about 4. We were out in the yard one day, and she said, "Mama, can I do so-and-so?" And I said, "Reckon so." And about 2 minutes later, she came back and asked me the same question, and I said, "I reckon so." And she finally said that, she says, "Yes, Mama, but what does reckon mean?"
I do that with my granddaughters because I like to slip in a lot of these little sayings, and they'll be, what? So I get a chance to educate them.
I say people in Arkansas speak 2 languages fluently, hillbilly and profanity.
I like that one.
But that's not true. Folks in